What is going on, everyone? It is your boy, Thrill Shocker, the 96 Hedgehog, and we are here for the DDL Season 2 Team Breakdowns for you guys, ladies and gentlemen. And before else, for more things, if you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe. It's absolutely free, and you can just enjoy the content as you see fit, man. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to DDL Season 2. If you guys don't know what the DDL is, it is the Devil's Den League. This is a league that is run by my very good friend, Brendan, aka Dark Devil 26. This is a league pretty much just hosted between friends that are in within a server, and we just have a good old time. We just do this league just to have fun. We also still try to play competitively, try to win, but at the end of the day, it's to have a good time and have a lot of fun. Now, with that being said, I wanted to do DDL season. I actually partake in the roughly close to midpoint of the DDL season 1 debut, unfortunately, to Sophie Sakurai, who unfortunately could not finish out the season, but we took over their team when we actually made a pretty decent run. We had an opportunity to make the playoffs, but unfortunately, hacks and just some rough plays by us kind of cost us the game, and a little bit of luck also not going our way. But that is a changed time. We are here. We are now. This is the improved season 2, and I figured, you know what? If I can't make Wi-Fi content, I want to at least try to hype up this league and really get, some fame out there and to some praise to some of the people out there as well. So if you guys do enjoy this, again, like I said, please do hit the like button, as I'm going to do everything I can to really give you some really good quality breakdowns here. So real quick, we're doing breakdowns here. In the order that you see this is not the order you see the draft. Actually, I'm going to do something really smart-tastic right here. Smart-tastic, yes, fake words here. We like the fake words around here. This is a really good time, really good object here. We are going to talk about these teams relatively in order, for the most part. Keyword for the most part. But we are going to go ahead and break it down like it ain't nothing tomorrow. So, first things foremost, basically, I'm going to go down each of one of these teams. I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions about it, what I think are some really great pros to this team, but I will label out any potential cons and maybe anything I could see that could be improved. Now, again, these are just my thoughts and opinions. They are to either be taken seriously or just, again, it's an opinion. You can just ignore it, be happy with the team you have, and not make any changes. But if anything, you can just be proving me wrong that you are a way better coach and you can just destroy me and crush me. So, yes, but let's kick it off here with first off being my good friend Wamar, the gaming titan himself, or should I say the gaming set Titans, as is his team name. Fun fact, Wamar actually was a part of Season 1, but unfortunately, due to IRL and work, it really took him out of the season before it even began for him, which is very unfortunate. Which is pretty funny because basically his team went to the finals and won by our Season 1 champion, who we'll get into in a second here. We're going to talk about Wamar's team first, as he had the first overall pick. And he made it very clear, very, very, very clear to us what he wanted, several times to us, in fact, in Urshifu. So, real quick, we're going to run down his team, and then we're going to go over it. He has Urshifu Single Strike, Skeledirge, Sandy Shocks, which is his Terramon. Real quick rule on the Terra Captains. Terra Captains are only one Pokemon on your entire draft in Terra, and it is Open Terra. It is a free Terra format. If you hate us for it, that's just the rules. Just go with it. We're having fun. Have some fun. Toxapex, Tinkaton, Dragonite, Toedscruel, Farigiraf, Iron Jiggles, Garganical, Garganacci, and Glaceon. And so, let's go over the team here. So, first off, we are going to go over some Terra bands, and I'm going to do the best I can to have my mental memory on fleek today when it comes to this. Urshifu is not a lot of Terra. It has been noted that it looks like Urshifu is really, really broken with the Terra format. I haven't really been seeing it as much, because I haven't seen a lot of leagues use it as a Terramon and stuff like that, so that, again, that's just my opinion. But over Wamar's team, it is fat, it is defensive, it is annoying. But there's one thing about his team that is really cool. His unique ways of potential setup, his weak ways of being very offensive in the matchups. I do like a good couple of picks on this thing. I do think Sandy Shocks as your Terramon was definitely a right decision. Obviously, you could have gone Skeledirge for more of the defensive Terra typing. But looking at Wamar's draft, his team is literally already defensive. I do like the Skeledirge. Skeledirge is a really cool Pokemon. I personally haven't been the biggest fan of it so far. I haven't been able to use it a lot, so definitely feel like I maybe need to get myself a little bit of a chance to get used, maybe then I can change my opinion on it. Who knows? But um, it's very interesting to say the least. Also, real quick before we get into this, I do want to say this was a doc that Lamar made for the PMC. If you haven't heard of it, you know of it. It is a league that is officially now owned and run by Lamar, who is eventually going to get a Wi-Fi season going only when his time is free enough to do so. Um, this is a doc he made with his tiers using the format he has. They were slightly tweaked by Brendan and Sophie, who were working around with the doc. And if you question why certain things are certain where, I will kind of explain that as best I can. But again, these are just the way they are. Please just leave it at that, and we'll just be fine. Because no one really needs someone that's going to be a backseat driver. You know what I mean? So back to Lamar's team. I think it's pretty interesting. I do think Lamar has really no removal on his draft. His only removal is Toadscruel, and I really don't think he's going to be bringing that Pokemon a lot. I think Lamar is definitely going to plan to bring every single one of his Pokemon at least to one game if he can find the matchup to do so. Like everyone else wants to do that, obviously. Everyone wants to try to bring everything Pokemon they can to their game. I do think Toadscruel can have some good niches in certain matchups. But I will say he's its only way to remove hazards besides boots. There is no defog option. Dragonite does not learn it. By the way, Dragonite is also not allowed to Terra. Otherwise, you would not see it in round 6. But I definitely think Lamar had two options for Terra, and I do like his choice. I think Sandy Shock is the better Terra user on this team. Just because if you really look at Lamar's draft, it doesn't really scream a lot of offense, if that makes sense. Like you have Urshifu, you have Sandy Shocks, you have Iron Jugglers to be really offensive. Dragonite can play offensive, but Lamar has actually stated he wants to try to use Dragonite a little bit more for defensive viability versus its offense, which is very fair. Dragonite is definitely a dragon. I feel like he can actually be a little bit more versatile than a lot of people get. Lamar has decent, good hazard setters and rocks. He has a couple of spikes users. He does have a few T spikes users. I think Lamar did a really good job getting some really good, reliable hazard setters on his draft. He does has some decent enough pivoting on his team. I don't think it's a strong amount of pivoting, but a decent amount. I overall think he's got some pretty cool mons overall as well. I do think he made a little bit of a questionable pick at round 4 for Toxapex. Definitely think it could have ranged at least around 6 or 8 possibly. But it's Lamar. It's his draft. He wanted to go with what he felt was best for his team. Overall, I do think Lamar's draft is pretty cool. One thing about his draft I don't really like is the lack of hazard removal. But in fairness, this is a gen where hazard removal is super insanely hard to get in this generation. And what the heck? Go away, notification. But it's a draft that has a lot of rock users. Also, Tinkaton, I forgot, was also a rocker. Same with Toadscruel. I definitely think Lamar has a really good team that pressures teams to bring the removal as well because of his hazard stacking potential he has. So I really rate Lamar's team pretty good here. I think overall, I'm going to give Lamar's team at least an 8. I think there's some really good options here. Obviously, Skeletor should also be a really good setup sweeper as well with Torch Song, which is also his mascot, his favorite Pokemon of all time. Not the mascot for the team, but the mascot for just in general, which, is a pretty cool Pokemon, I'm not going to lie. So it's a really good option for a mascot. I do think the Farigiraf is going to be a slept-on Pokemon. As someone that's used Giraffe Rig in NFE League, I have absolutely loved that thing. That is a great mon. And I'm excited to see how Farigiraf pops off. I'm hoping Lamar shines with it. I also think the Iron Jug is an underrated Pokemon. I think that's going to be a really sick mon on his team. And I'm hoping Glaceon comes and gets at least 1 kill this season. So overall, again, like I said, I'm going to give Lamar's team 8 out of 10. I think it's really cool. I do think the only thing I can critique it on, really, is that it's a little bit more on the defensive side and a little bit of lack of hazard removal. But overall, I think Lamar has really good utility, really good offense for the most part, and I'm really excited to see how he does this season. Coming in at number 2 is the man right next to him in rows of the Las Vegas Rotoms. And this man just said, I don't need a budget, which is basically 120 points, by the way. I don't need a budget. I don't need anything. Check it. I'm so stupid. But Rose's team is very interesting. He went super high on his points and had to really value out going down to the bottom of the draft. And wait a minute. Okay, I'm not going to lie. For a second, I thought I saw 876 for a second. I was like, no way this man's actually counting backwards. He's got, 11, 10. Rose, you messed it up, man. Come on. But anyways, I really think Rose's team is really interesting. It definitely relies on pretty much his top 3 being brought. And I'm telling you this right now. He's bringing his top 3 every single week. I'm telling you this right now. There's no way he doesn't bring this. I think Enamorus was the perfect one to bring Terra because Chien-Pao and both Dragapult cannot Terra in this format. They are just deemed too broken for it. Gastron, one of the best water checks to a lot of Pokemon out there, which is really, really cool, which I think is really nice. I do think the Bronzong is an underrated pick. As someone that's actually had some fun using Bronzong in the past, it's definitely a really good Pokemon. Quaquaval, as someone that is, you guys may have realized can sweep with a good little step or two, is a phenomenal Pokemon. It is amazing. And I definitely think he really picked up some niches right here. I think he made some transactions throughout the draft. He did originally have Grimmsnarl in the draft, and I do think don't I think that was a bit of a mistake to drop the Grimmsnarl, in my opinion. I think Grimmsnarl with screens with this team is disgusting. But the fact that he didn't pick that up, though, I definitely gonna have to knock it down a point at least for that. Arbolive is your grass type. I don't think it's really the best because it's a normal type as well. And you really kind of have a little hard time switching into fightings. I know you have two fairies and a ghost type, but they're not going to be the most reliable answer, especially when those fighting types are super predictable. I am here for the Muck. The Muck is goaded. I am here for the Toxic Spikes. Hattering gives him another removal technical of hazards control. He does have two Rapid Spinners. Quaquaval, which actually can reliably run Rapid Spin under certain niches, and obviously Colossal if he needs be. I do think the hazard setting's a little weak on this team. I mean, you only have like three rockers on one spiker, two spikers, I think. Yeah, two spikers and one toxic spike user. Now, I say it's weak, and I know that sounds really weird to say, but I feel like when it comes to just Pokemon, you have one to be a rocker, one that's going to be spikes. It's it's just interesting to me. I feel like this team's a little unbalanced in a way. Like, I don't think the bulk pairs well. I do think the Gastron plus Bronzong pair is actually a really strong combination as they really check each other's decently and check each other's weaknesses for the most part, which I really, really like. Um, I'm hoping to see Muck come more than one game. I want to see Muck pop off. I want to see that Quaquaval pack off. Pack off? Come back. Pop off. Jesus. I cannot talk with my words today. And I hope you get a really good time with the Quabbel. I actually have just used it. Obviously, you guys can tell, and I actually am really liking it. Like I said, I think as a Pokemon, it's kind of trash, but as competitively, it's freaking amazing. I love that Pokemon. Overall, what I rate Rose's team, I think in terms of his offense, it's a little bit more, in my opinion, towards the physical side than there is any special, even though I do think there's a sleeper and special offensive Gastrodon. Look into it, Rose. And maybe the little bit of Hatterene, but the Enamorus, I mean, Double Fairy is not really bad here because you do have a Terra on your Enamorus, which I definitely think, like I said, was the best Terra choice on this team. I think I'm going to give a solid 7. I think there's some really good pieces here. I think, again, team then kind of leans a little bit towards being too much of an offensive team, not a ton of bulk. Relying on bulk pretty much in just Gastron, Bronzong, and maybe Cole / Arb / Muck a little bit. I think the Healing Wish support on the draft is also really nice, but I really think there needs to be a little bit more kind of a balance in terms of offensive defense a little bit. But overall, I think it's a super solid team. Really love it. Up next, we've got my good friend Brendan's team, and oh my god, am I scared to face this team. Brendan got arguably the most broken Fairy Dragon Steel Cord known to man, and he wanted Dragapult, by the way, and he got sniped with Drago literally right before him, which I thought was funny. He got the mascot pick, which I don't think I've ever seen Brendan draft the mascot. He might only draft it one other time. Iron Valiant and Aurora Moon have been both Terra banned after their broken performances of Terra after last season. I do think Brendan's team it's quite interesting, I feel like. I think he's balanced out his bulk and offense perfectly well. I do think he has the best defogger in the game in Corviknight. He does have an okay spinner in Avalugg. It's not like the most reliable spinner in this game. He has my Hisuian Typhlosion, which I really wanted so badly. I hate that. Um, I do think the double flying's a little weird for this team, but being that Zapdos is his Terramon, which I think for what you have to offer, it's not the worst Terra option. It's definitely one of his strongest ones. And if I'm going to be honest, it might be used more as his offensive piece to this team, as Corviknight is going to probably be more the defensive flying type on this draft. Alomola, just... But Clodsire giving him 3 layers of spite, giving him 3 layers of hazards, which is really nice. Also having another couple of few niche rockers. But if I do have to say, that's kind of a little bit on the bad end of the team here. Like I said, you only have like 3 rockers in Clodsire, Lycanroc, and Dunsparce. I've known Brendan. He does like to run rocks on his Lycanroc every once in a while, here and there. And I don't think that's really the best uses of a rocker, in my opinion. The Dunsparce, I really don't think you're really going to bring that much. If you're bringing it to one game, I will be proud of you, but I also question that. Your main form of hazard setting is with Claude, and I feel like you're going to be forced to bring Claude every single week, which is really hard because then you have to really struggle to be either underwear or water absorbent in most matchups. I think you bring your top three every single week, and that top three is just really hard to really prep around. I really like I said, the Tucson Typhlosion with Frisk is really nice. Iron Leaves is definitely a Pokemon thing a lot of people are going to sleep on, and if they're not careful, could really get body bagged by like I did. So overall, I think I'm gonna give Brendan's team an 8. I think again the only thing I really want to see a little bit fixed on is just more, it's like better hazard setting and maybe one more reliable remover that's not Avalog. But overall, I think Brendan's team is super good. It's decently balanced in all the right ways. So really nice team. And speaking of the team that Lamar had won with the championship, we're with that coach that took that team to the championship. That is Shadow Glade, aka Coach of the Carolina Taurus Heels. And believe it or not, this is actually going to be my week 1, believe it or not. And we will talk about pick'ems in a future video. Shadow's team is Baxcalibur, Slowking, Amoonguss, Scizor, Tornadus, Fire Tor, Fire Tauros, Dugtrio, Azuru, Decidueye, Palma, and Eevee. Also, I didn't really go over Rose's team, I believe, for the most part, and I also didn't go over Brendan, so you guys know the scheme here of, Avalon, Lycanroc, and all that stuff. I need to try to get better and be more consistent with this. But Shadow's team it's honestly odd that for prepping it, it's really unpredictable. It's really kind of hard to say what he wants to bring for this matchup. I think he really got some solid momentum Pokemon in this draft. He got some really good U-turners and Volt Switchers on this team, which really gets in that Baxcalibur or even that Fire Tauros or even the Thundurus to that degree. Which, spoilers, I also drafted the other Thundurus. We have Thundy Buddies. I found that funny. And yes, what you see on your screen is a 1-point Eevee. That is for the lore. You gotta check out his channel for the lore. Also in the description will be the channels for everyone that is uploading their videos this season. I will find out who is and make sure they are in the description down below. So that way you guys can go check them out, either their YouTubes or their Twitches, and we'll put you out there. And definitely go show them some love because it's really hard to put this all together and have people that are trying their best to be patient with one another. But definitely go show some love and support for the people down below. Now back to Shadow's team. Like I said, I think he's got some really good defensive options. Like Azu is one of the best defensive walls in the game that checks so many things out there, which is really nice. Palmont, I think, is very underrated, even though he cannot use Reliable Blessing. I think a lot of people sleep on how good Palmont can be really good in this generation. Decidueye, I really wanted that Pokemon, so F you Shadow. But Dugtrio for trapping is kind of just like, because you guys know he actually kept Gothitelle from his original team, and Gothitelle put in the work, especially when it came to just trapping Mons. It's really hard to really counteract the trapping Pokemon, just because, again, you may not think that Mon may come, but it's going to come, and if you don't have that Shed Shell, or you have your Levitator out there, it's going to be really bad for you there. I think Terra on the Baxcalibur was a genius pickup. If he didn't have Baxcalibur, I think he definitely would have Terra at the Thundurus, which was the second best choice in this team. Chilling Reception to get into that Baxcalibur, which can even take advantage of the snow for defensive viability before Terraring, which I think is a really cool option. Spore usage with Amoonguss is really annoying, but really good defensively as well. I think Slowking plus Amoonguss is really good defensive core. Offensively with Scizor is really good. If there's one thing about this draft is I really would have liked to see a spinner on this draft versus defoggers, because you have two defoggers, which one's a little bit more reliable than the other. I feel like Scizor is just better offensively than defensively with defog in my opinion. But also, I really love the defensive availability with Decidueye. Again, like I said, I think I would have rather liked to see a spinner on this draft as well. And another thing is, like, he has no hazards. He only has one rocker. I think if you're really going to have a Pokemon like Baxcalibur, you really need to have good hazard setters on your draft. I think overall, though, I'm going to give Shadow's team like a 7.5. Again, the only thing I think that holds the team back is hazard setting. And I also think having a little bit more of kind of diversity a little bit. I do think there are going to be some weeks where it's going to be hard to pick which 6 he'll bring. And again, some of the overlapping typings that he also has that are common weaknesses, even though they don't fully share most of them for the recent part. I do think the diversity could be a tiny bit better. But like I said, the main thing I think is that there's not a good spinner on this draft. Obviously, there's not a lot of spinners in this format. And again, I feel like it's a little weird here. Pivoting wise, I think there's a really good pivots, everything else. But again, there's just something about this team that's just not screaming that it's well put together the best it can be. But overall, I think Shadow's team is very annoying to prep for. And it's going to be a very interesting week one. And I'm looking forward to it. Up next, we've got my good buddy Flame Horizon. And this man drafted some of the Pokemon that I really wanted on my team. He grabbed Lando, Heatran, Regieleki, Quagsire, Serena, Mimikyu, Hydreigon, Overqwil, Spidops, Lycanroc, Dusk, and Zangoose. Real quick, I know you see what looks like a 15-point Regieleki. I will explain this once and only once. In Wamar's dock, he's going to have at a point where 13 or 14 Pokemon or below and up a budget, you can tear out into PMZ. He has purposely put Regieleki in 15 just so that Mon cannot be allowed to Terra. Just going to say that right now. Now, with that being said, let's get into Flame's draft here. He went with Terra Landorus, which I think was definitely one of the three best choices he had. He had three phenomenal options between Hydreigon, Heatran, Lando. I was going to do the Hydreigon until he sniped me of the round. I was going to get it, so Flame, I don't like you. But Flame's team, it's quite interesting to say the least. He does have a lot of good hazard setting options. He's got a lot of rockers on this team. He's got a grand total, believe it or not, of 5 stealth rockers, which is pretty insane. He has 2 spikes users, and I believe he has 2 toxic spikes users. Which I think, if not, he at least has the one, which is really important. He does have 2 options to rapid spin with Regieleki and Serena, which are semi-reliable, but not the most reliable in my opinion. In terms of what his team overall is quite a good amount of between offense and defense. I definitely think the Heatran could have been a really phenomenal Terra choice as well, along with Hydreigon, like I said before. But I do think the Lando was one of the best options. It's going to be one of his best breakers on his team. And I think he's got a lot of good support pieces for his breakers, so I think it's really cool. He drafted one of the best counteractive mons to beat the Lando in case if it's already Terra in Regieleki, which I think is really good. He made his fairy type Mimikyu. Shoutouts to him. Overquill, really excited to see that thing be used. I wanted to eventually try that thing. Lycanroc was going to be a Pokemon I was potentially thinking about as well, but I wanted him to have the mascot pick, so which gives him bonus points for that. Zangoose is your normal type. I don't really know if I agree with that, but it's definitely a strong normal type to say the least. Overall, I gotta get Flames team. I think on like a 9. I think he has strong, hot, really, really strong hazard settings. If there's one thing about Flames team that I'm gonna knock on it is speed tiers. I think his speed tiers are a little out of place because they're all pretty much in the 90s except for Lycanroc and Regieleki. Regieleki doesn't count. But all of his speed tiers are pretty much in the high to mid 90s to basically below, which I don't think there's a lot of versatility in that. And that's like maybe the only gripe I have. And then maybe the fact that you'll be forced to bring Regieleki or Serena as a spinner. I do think there could have been an occasional chance to grab at least a viable defogger for the team at very most. But overall, I do think Flames team is still worthy of a 9. It's very strong and it has a lot of things going for it. Coming in the 6th round, dead set in the middle. Oh wait, that's me. I had really bad draft position, and I got sniped on quite a lot of stuff I really wanted. And I still think I walked away with a pretty interesting team, though. I picked up Sneasler. This was one of the few leagues where I saw Sneasler as an opportunity to get a Pokemon that I really, really wanted after trying so many times. And in 2 leagues, literally 1 or 2 picks right before me, get sniped right in front of me. So I really wanted that Pokemon. So, Sneasler, I really, really love. It's such a really good Pokemon. I cannot use Dire Claw. It has been shown that Dire Claw is very strong in what it offers, and it has been decided that it will be a banned move on this Pokemon, but I can still Terra it whenever I want if I ever choose to do so. I did not choose to do so. I'm going to just kind of wait and see and go from there for right now. But over there, I did grab a relatively early Hisuian Samurott, but this was mostly because I wanted to try the Pokemon. And this is where if I got Typhlosion, I was full sending and going for Decidueye and just going all out for it. Just because I thought it would be funny, but Brendan ruined that, so yeah. But then came Thundersterian. I really wanted a really strong Terramon, and I was really debating between this and Sneasler for so freaking long. I end up for right now, it could change, but for right now, Thundy, just because Thundy has a little bit more versatility for its Terra typing, where kind of going with Sneasler has a little bit of gimmicky with it, a little bit in my opinion. But I think it's got some very good uses by ability. It's also one of the strongest, and it's also a Pokemon I've only used like one time in my entire career. And that was what my mindset was going to this draft. It was also to have fun, but also try to win, but also wanted to use a lot of Pokemon that I've either never have used or only used once or twice, or Pokemon I haven't tried in just like so long. Speaking of Pokemon I've never used, Donphan. I only used Donphan in teams where I've taken over, which I don't count those really as me using the Pokemon. This is my first time using Donphan. It gave me a Rapid Spinner, which I really need for the team. It was one of the best Rapid Spinners in the game itself, which is really nice. Gardevoir, I really wanted a really good Fairy type, and Gardevoir, if you guys have seen in the past, has been one of my absolute crushers of a Pokemon on my team, and I'm very much excited to have Gardevoir back. Talonflame gave me a relatively decent and reliable defogger if I really am iffy about those hazards, if I don't want to ring spin. Also, was giving me one of the best fire types that were left on the board. I know Cinderace was still technically on the board with a Pharaoh, but I didn't think I really wanted to waste the points on it. His shooting Goodrug killed two birds with one stone for me, with being a dragon and a steel type. Some people definitely think this is going to be a really good pick for my draft. I'm really excited to try it out. I've never really wanted to use this. I used Goodrug for like one game regularly, and I saw the great potential and how fun that thing could really do after not using it for so long. So, really excited to see how shooting Goodrug works out for me. My boy, the Dunsparce, is back after his amazing showing in the PBAL, and I'm absolutely here for the Dunsparce, man. I love it. Brambleghast, I literally just grabbed it for rapid spin and also ground type, ground immunity, ground switching. That's all I can say about it. Tyranitar definitely is something that makes no sense on this draft, but I had just so many points left over. I definitely look back at it and kind of regret this pick. There were few other mons I would have probably picked up over this that probably would have made a lot more sense. But I'm still happy I have this. And again, depending on some matchups, I might eventually trade this thing out. So I don't know. And basically, I grabbed Kenny, but it was a ice machine. He's very frozen. Literally, I mean, I had the points. I might as well get something that's really good to pair with Thundy besides the electric rock weakness. But it's pretty good. I would honestly rank my team with a 7. I think I do have I have a few good rockers on this team. I do have potential spikes in Cecil's Edge with my student Samurott. But in terms of my removal's decent. It's not the most reliable besides Donphan. And I also think that I just don't have a team that really backs each other up in a certain way. So I think giving myself a 7 is about fair as I can give myself, in my honest opinion. But overall, I'm really excited with my team, and I cannot wait to play it with this season. Coming up next, we got Cameron, who I think has a very unique team, to say the least. He has Volcarona, Iron Treads, Dondozo, Glomora, Sylvia, Meowscarada, Mesprit, Halucha, Penurchin, Houndstone, and Greedent. He cannot have Last Respects on the Houndstone. Last Respects is banned on this Pokemon. So he grabbed Volcarona round 1, and that was mostly because that was going to be his Terramon. And he saw great value, and he went for the value. That's all I'm going to say. Don't judge. Don't say anything. Just move on with your day. Thank you. But I think he really paired some good things around it. I do think that the Iron Treads is really good to give you a good spinner. Dondozo is a fat fish, which I definitely think was taken a little too early, but I could definitely understand wanting to grab it early because I definitely think a lot of people had their eyes on that fish. Glomora, obviously one of the best hazard stackers in the game, with also being one of the most slept on, really good offensive Pokemon in this generation. Sylveon actually proving to be kind of actually a decent enough, one of the best fairies you can get in this generation. Meowscarada with Protein. I think getting that in round 6, absolute steal of a pick right there, which I think is really good. Mesprit, pretty good defensive psychic type. Healing with support for the team, which is really nice. Penurchin plus Halucha, obviously for the unburdened strats, and also the potential spikes and T-spikes that Penurchin offers. Houndstone, it's just a ghost type. Greedent, it's just a Greedent. Overall, I really like this team. I do think the only thing I don't like about it is there's not a you're pretty much relying on removal on Donphan. Now, before anyone says it, well, Glomora's got Mortal Spin. That's basically Robin Spin, man. What are you doing? You're really gonna waste a move slot for Mortal Spin on a Glomora? If you're doing that, I think you need to see somebody. But I think this is a very diverse team where there's a lot of threats on this team that have great setup potential and just win. There is Quiver Dance Volcarona. There is Curse Dondozo. There is setup with Electric Terrain, Electric Seed, and Sword Dance Halucha. Like, there is a lot of good, strong Mons in this matchup. There's also really good pivoting on this draft, really good U-turners in this team, a Volt Switcher in Iron Treads and Pernurchin, which I think is really, really good. I think the only thing about this team is maybe that the Houndstone and the Greedent are just throwing me off a little bit. Otherwise, I think Cameron drafted a pretty good team. He has very good support and has good sleeper and offensive Pokemon on his draft. And I think honestly, I'm gonna give him a 9. The only thing, again, like I said, a knock is just that I think he could have gotten better value of whatever he wanted for a Ghost type and a normal type. But I overall think this is a strong draft, and it's gonna definitely be one of the teams to kind of really look out for this season, in my honest opinion. All right, double checking real quick here. Okay, yes, it was. So coming up next, we have Sophie, who's came back this season and is hopefully going to be able to be a part of us this season again, which I really, really hope, because she is a very good, talented battler. She has Ursaluna, Hoopa Unbound. I wish I had that. Cleavor, Volcanion, Earthworm, Cryogonal. Really wish I had that. And Hammer's Therian, Haxorus, Hisuian, Zoroark, Electrode, Hisuian, and Swalot. This team's a little all over the place, in my opinion. It's a little weird, but here's the thing: she's got monster of Pokemon, but she's gonna name them after cute things, and we're gonna be yelling, "That's not cute!" and all that stuff, which I think is gonna be really funny. I do think the Ursaluna is a little bit of a weird first overall pick, but I can definitely understand the value of why, because it is one of the best ground types in this format, arguably one of the best, if not the best normal type in this format as well. And pairing that with Hoopa Unbound is disgusting. That is arguably the most disgusting combination I've ever seen in my life. And the fact that that's also a free Terra Hoopa is insanely, insanely powerful. Cleavor is really cool because it gives you access to a Stealth Rocker and also a Mon that can set up rocks with Stone Axe. Volcanion, underrated Mon. I think a lot of people sleep on this thing. It's so good. Earthworm, which can use Shed Tail and is also a good rocker and I think a potential spiker. Cryogonal gives you Rapid Spin. An Amasterian is an Amasterian. Haxorus is one of the best dragons out there. Hisuian Zoroark with this team is going to be so annoying to really play around, which is very frustrating. The Hisuian Electrode, a really good fast. I think an underappreciated Pokemon in this generation. And my boy, the GOAT, Swalot, he is here. Let's go. Overall, what I think about her team is it's interesting. I don't think there's really a ton of hazards on this team. I think you're pretty much relying on hazards in the Stone Axe from Cleavor, like I am with Ceaseless Edge with my Samurott, and you're pretty much relying on Earthworm. Everything else doesn't really get hazards, and besides Toxic Spice on this Swalot, but there's not going to be a lot of weeks you're really going to bring that Swalot. Overall, I do think the offensive breaking on this team, both physically and especially, is very good. I do think this team is suffering a little bit from the defensive end, and I do understand that there are some things here that are very defensive, but I don't know if the synergy fits well defensively. Like, Ursaluna can definitely be physically or especially defensive in the certain matchups, but if you look at Ursaluna paired with Cryogonal, paired with Earthworm, they are all weak to fighting. And if you really look at this draft, fighting really does a number on it besides Enamorous and Zoroark. Overall, I think this team is a little bit more on offense than it is defense, which I kind of like to see a little bit of balance between the both of them. But if your offense can play good defense, which I know Ursaluna can, I know Volcanion can, and stuff like that, that I think is more viable to get through that. I think overall, I'm going to give this team probably an 8. I do kind of want to see more hazard removal in this draft besides just Cryogonal, which I feel like it might be almost forced to bring this week, or be forced to bring Boots on Volcanion every single week. I do think there is some good utility out of this team in terms of offense. Ignore the sirens outside. But overall, I think this team leans a little more towards being just good offensive breaking versus having good reliable defense and a decent amount of synergy. Overall, though, I think Sophie seems very interesting. It definitely looks like a draft I could see see myself using as well this season. So, a really good job by Sophie on her team. I think it's really, really good overall. Up next, we have. Okay, what are we doing here, phone? What are we doing here, phone? We have Mr. Incog M, one of the funniest and talented guy you will ever get to enjoy. And first and foremost, he's not allowed to run Spectre as a Terra Captain. That's not happening. He did make a couple of changes to his team. He originally had a Lowland Persian, um, so Titan and Abomasnow on his draft. He actually changed that up and upgraded to better Pokemon. He has Galar King, Greninja, Great Tusk, Rotom Wash, Florges, Regidrago, Klefki, Oricorio, Luminion, and Komala. I love the combination of just good special breaking with Spectre, Glow King, and Greninja, which can run Battle Bond. It is allowed to this generation. I mean, this generation allowed this season. I do think the diversity between their typings and covering weaknesses is a little off, in my opinion. I don't think that really helps a lot. Great Tusk, obviously one of the best spinners in the entire game. Kamala, a just your below average spinner at best. Um, I do think there's a couple of things interesting about this team. First and foremost, he only has one Stealth Rocker. Second and foremost, he only has two Spike users. Third and foremost, he has two Toxic Spike users. I'm gonna stop doing that; it's a little annoying myself. I do think only one of them is a little bit more reliable than the other, and the other one's pretty much gonna be the non-spiker of this draft. So a little bit of wasted potential there on the hazards. Speed on this draft is really all over the place. You have two mons that are pretty much almost speed tie with each other, and then you drop all the way down to pretty much Great Dust, followed by Rage Drago. If you also count Wash, well, let's be honest, you only run Rotom Wash defensively. Um, I love Reggie Drago. That's my boy. That's my boy. I do think screens on this draft is very scary. I think there's a lot of customization that he can do with this team. And also going Terra on the Oricorio actually is not a bad strategy because if you guys don't know, Revelation Zance basically works as Terra Blast, but actually stronger than Terra Blast because you're still getting stabbed off of that Revelation Stance, which I think is really cool. I think definitely that's a good sleeper Terra pick, in my opinion. I personally would have gone with the either Great Tusk or the Red Drago as a Terramon, but Incog is Incog. I'll let him cook. I'll let him stir. I'll let him do his business. But I overall think Incog's team is it's a little weird. I really think that it would have benefited from one defogger on this team, in my personal opinion. And I think you're pretty much relying on Great Tusk being your spinner almost every single week instead of Kamala, unless you're forced to bring Kamala. I don't know why I see Luminion on my screen, but we're seeing a Luminion on my screen. Overall, I think Incog's draft, I do think the pivoting could have been a little bit better as well. I mean, you have Chilly Reception, U-Turn Greninja, and Volt Baton Pass and Volt Switch. But I feel like the pivoting is not as reliable besides the U-turn and Volt Switch, in my opinion. Baton Pass, I feel is like a niche stat passing, in my opinion. Not stat passing, but like a passing of like switching and stuff. But overall, I think this is a pretty good team. I think it's gonna be very interesting to see how Incog plays with it. And I think I'm gonna be fair and give it an 8. I do think there's a lot of things on this team. I don't know how well they mesh together and how I feel about the lower end of the draft, but it's gonna be really interesting Pokemon nonetheless to see how we use them this season. Up next, making his debut in the DDL and a bunch of other coaches, which I never stated, we've got Trey. Trey has a very scary, scary team. His top five, arguably his just top six, are pretty much all he needs to really bring every single week and do work. He has Urvashu, Rapid Strike, Cyclozar, which can run Shed Tail, Espatha, which is his Terra Captain, Goldengo, Tingaloo, Rotom Heat, Fortress, Ditto, Inteleon, Masquerade, and Wigglytuff. Definitely his bottom half of the draft, besides the Inteleon, is kind of trash. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think he only really drafted like 7 good Pokemon and just 2 mediocre Pokemon and 2 Pokemon that are just bad. Rapid Strike, I think is really phenomenal. I cannot wait to see how that thing uses. It's definitely on my go-to try list Pokemon, which I really want. Cyclizar is actually not that bad of a Pokemon. I do think it's kind of more gimmicky for its Shed Tail and its choice of Rapid Spin. But it's interesting. Espathra Terra is very, very good. really a lot of money, especially in a free Terra format. Goldango, I think, is overrated. It's not that great. It can be good for what it offers, but it's not that great overall. You can hurt me later. Ting Lu gives you a Stealth Rocker, Spiker, and one of the best ground types in the format as well, which is really nice. Also, arguably one of the best defensive dark checks in the game as well. Rotom Heat Kenny. First off, Kenny kind of sucks. But overall, Rotom Heat is a really cool Pokemon. Really love it. Fortress just gives you Stealth Rock, Spikes, and Socks and Spikes and a Spinner. Ditto just gives you Ditto. Inteleon gives you a pretty good fast U-turner and also a really good special breaker. And Wigglytuff gives you a Ghost Resist, I guess. And you have a Masquerain for webs. For webs. I overall think Trey's team, it's really weird because he has only two spinners, but one of them's really not going to spin. The other one might be able to have spin, but I feel like it takes away on move coverage that could potentially run in a game. So I'm overall going to give Trey's team probably another 8. I do think there's some decent enough options of a defensive backbone for the team, but I think offensively, the team is a little lacking as well because only Rep Urshifu, Espathra, and I guess in some degree Goldango come to my mind as the offensive breakers on this team. I mean, obviously there's some slept-on threats like the Inteleon, the Tingaloo, and the Goldango, but I just don't see a lot of great choices in terms of its offense. I think this team's pretty much built around getting some hazards up and kind of using a little bit of bulk to have that bulk pivot into the offense and then have the offense try to get any offense they can go in to try to win games or break teams down. So overall, though, I think Trey's team's pretty decent. I think it's got some pretty cool Pokemon on there, and it has a overrated Mon on there that went round 1 last season. Shout out to Rose. And yes, Rose, I had to do that. You can't stop me from it. But anyway, speaking of teams that can't stop you, this is a man that you give creativity to a Pokemon, he can make it good. He makes Pokemon look so easy that it's child's play. We've got my boy, the GOAT himself, Beta 20X, aka Beta, aka Buddha, aka I don't know anything else. But this man got a very late Torn, which I think is a really good steal for what he got. Speaking of steals, he followed that up with a King Gambit that can Terra, which I definitely think arguably is one of his best Terra mons on here besides Torn. Screamtail is a very annoying but really good fairy and wisher for the team. He did go double psychic, which you can kind of question him on, which one doesn't share a main weakness that they do. They only have one main weakness that they do share, and that is Ghost, which Ghost is a little bit of a problem in this draft, which I don't think is really good unless you're really going to run Mouse Hold every single week, which if there's one man that can make Mouse Hold good, it's Beta. I believe in Beta to make Mouse Hold broken. Rillaboom is a very interesting pick on this draft. It does kind of help with a few ground weaknesses on this team, but I just don't know if I really agree with it. He doesn't have mons that really abuse Earthquake spam, which I think is definitely really noted right there. One of the things he definitely did not draft was a ground type, but I think he went into that knowing he wasn't going to do that, especially when he picked up Rillaboom. But I do think the ground typing is kind of a notable thing because it's one of the most common types in draft that you will see out there. Beta does also have no options to really hazards besides King Gambit and Screamtail for rocks, I think. He has no Spiker besides Toxic Spikes and Gengar, which is never really running that. Pivoting is pretty decent on here. Good volt switching, good U-turners. Um, I overall think Beta's team is probably going to be, in my opinion, like a 7. I feel like there's some weird picks on here, like the Primeape's still out of place, I feel like. Arcanine is, I guess, was one of the better fire types you had. Also with Gengar, late Gengar, by the way. I also think the Double Ghost is a little weird in my opinion, but it kind of gave him that ground immunity mon that he needed besides the Rillaboom, and the Torn, obviously. But I overall don't know. I know Beta's here just to have fun and just to bring some wacky stuff and to really be creative with his draft. And I'm looking forward to Beta this season. I hope he gets to be a part of so many games that are going to get uploaded that are from people's side at least, if he's not going to Twitch stream his or anything like that. Because I feel like Beta is going to have some of the best matchups just because he's going to bring some of the wackiest things and he's going to make them work. I'm super excited to see how Beta does this season. And last but not least, we have my good friend Bloody of the Stockland Villages, and he has quite the interesting team. He has a Sun team with Annihilate, what are we going to do? He's got Walking Blade, Kasumi Arcanine, which is his Terramon, which arguably is one of his best Terra choices here. A couple of hidden mentions and honorable mentions from the match. Torkoal, and yes, you see a round 4 point Dash Bun. Fate had decided that. Hisuian, Lilligant, Cresselia, Kilowattrel, Crocodile, Annihilate, Copperajah, and Stantler. Now, in my opinion, he even has stated this on multiple occasions and has agreed. He really over-predicted in drafting the Dachshund so early. Looking at his team, he has one spinner and one defogger. And I know what you're thinking. No, that's not Kilowattrel. That is Lilligant as his defogger. Torkoal's his spinner. Yeah. Overall, his team. I think he has one of the best pairings for Sun with Walking Wake with having a Hisuian Arcanine. Flare Blitzes in the Sun are not going to be fun to switch into. Everything is into 2-hit KO. I think Terra on the Hisuian Arcanine was really, really good. I think there's a lot of cool niches and opportunities with that. Terra choice, of course. I do think Walking Away could have also been a very fun candidate, but I think everyone agrees that maybe Arcanine benefits it more. Lilligant with Hustle is very high risk, high reward, or high risk or low reward. But I do think it's a really good mon. It is a very slept on threat because I think a lot of people always sleep. Oh, I think in Hustle, this thing does get access to Chlorophyll, which can be Sun Sweeper under the right conditions. He drafted Cresselia, which was a fat duck, and I don't like it because I kind of wanted it too, but I also felt like this was a weird pick. But it does make a lot of sense for his draft because if you actually click on Moonlight, he gets way more recovery in the Sun, which doesn't make any sense in my opinion, but we're going to go on with it. Kilowattrel was another great choice for Terra, in my opinion, with having that Voltorb ability, but also Kilowattrel just in general. He's such a good Pokemon. I love this part. He's such a really good Pokemon. Crocodile gave him a Dark and Ground type, which he kind of needed later on in that draft, which was good. I think Annihilate is a steal at the round he got it in, which was round 9. I think Copperajah is your steel type's a bit of a problem, and just a Stantler is just a Stantler. Looking overall at this draft, you really only have one solid removal, and you really have no hazards besides Stealth Rock and Copperajah, which may not even really come a lot of the games. Stealth Rock and Annihilate, which if you're doing that, you're running Annihilate wrong and you're going to be questioned for. Crocodile, which is decent, reliable setter. Hisuian Arcanine, but Arcanine's never clicking rocks. Torkoal, which is another decent enough hazard setter. So I do think your hazard setting is very weak. You don't have a grounded poison type, which means you don't really lose to Toxic Spikes in your draft, which is really annoying. I think this team honestly is going to be a 7 for me. There's a lot of critique in terms of the hazard settings and the hazard removal options, but I do think this team does have a lot of functionality that can make it work. And Bloody can usually make a lot of things work. I mean, I think he made like what? He made I don't think this was him, but he made a Sawsbuck get like 2 kills. A Sawsbuck. I could be wrong though. Again, like I said, I don't really know off the top of my head. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the draft breakdowns. Let me know in the comments below who's your favorite team this season. And let me know who you think is going to be the champion of the DDL Season 2. My name has been Phil Shocker, and I said, y'all, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and share with your friends to spread some hype for the DDL. With that being said, though, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!